Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Which of the following mountain passes are located in Uttarakhand? Lipu Lake, Niti, Agil, Difu, Banihal. The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a mention of Lipu Lake. Let us try and understand which of these options are present in the Uttarakhand. When we look into the state of Uttarakhand, we have the Trails Pass, we have the Lipu Lake Pass, we have the Mana Pass, the Mangsha Dhura Pass, the Mulingla Pass, Niti Pass, Depsa Pass as well as the Rohtang Pass. Looking into these passes, the ones which are present in the state of Uttarakhand happen to be Lipu Lake Pass as well as the Niti Pass. So the answer to this would be 1 and 2 only. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section where are the other three passes located. We have the Agil Pass. Where is it located? It is part of which state? Diffu Pass. Where is it located? And Banihal Pass is in which state or the union territory? Please put them on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. The budget session is the longest session of all. Parliament has to be summoned by the Speaker twice in a year with a gap of no more than 6 months between its sessions. There is no minimum number of days that Parliament is required to meet in a year. Which of the above statements is are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of session of the parliament as well as the state legislative assemblies. Let us try and understand what are these options. When we look into the first option, it says the budget session is the longest session of all. This is the right statement. When it comes to the different sessions in the parliament, we have three different sessions. One is what is called as the budget session. It usually takes place from the month of February up until May. Followed by this, what we have is the monsoon session, which takes place from July up until September. Then we also have the winter session, which generally takes place between the month of November and December. So the longest of all these sessions happen to be the budget session. So the first statement is right. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section which is the shortest session of all. We have discussed about the longest session, which is the shortest. Please put it on the comment section. The second option says Parliament has to be summoned by the Speaker twice in a year with a gap of no more than 6 months between its sessions. The statement, when you look at it, looks correct, but there is a small issue here. What is that? It is not the Speaker who summons, but instead it is the President. We have Article 85 of the Indian Constitution, which speaks about sessions of Parliament, prorogation and dissolution. Look at the wordings. The President shall, that is, it is compulsory for the President to actually call for a session where it is he who will be summoning each house of the Parliament to meet at such time and place as he thinks fit, but 6 months shall not intervene between its last sitting in one session and the date appointed for its first sitting in the next session. So who summons the Parliament? It is the President and not the Speaker, which is why the second statement is wrong. What does Article 85 of the Indian Constitution say? It says it is the President who summons the parliamentarians to appear before the Parliament. They should have their legislative business in the Parliament. You have the executive, which is also part of the Parliament. The legislative will be questioning the executive. All of this is part of the general proceedings that happen in the Parliament. So it is the President who will call these legislators to the Parliament. It is he who summons them. So it is the legislator. After the summons received by the President, they appear in the Parliament. That's the first thing. The second part of the article also says that in the Parliament, there should at least be two sessions within 1 year. So the second statement is partially right and partially wrong. So because it is also partially wrong, the answer to this would be 1 and 3. Now when we look into the third statement, there is no minimum number of days that Parliament is required to meet in a year. The Parliament under Article 85 will have to meet at least twice in a year, but it does not prescribe how many days in a particular session. So there is no minimum number of days that Parliament is required to meet in a year. This statement is also right. So looking at all this information, the answer would be 1 and 3. Now drawing the parallels at the state level, we would also have the governor who from time to time shall summon the house or each house of the legislature of the state to meet at such time and place as he thinks fit, but 6 months shall not intervene between its last sitting in one session and the date appointed for its first sitting in the next session. So the governor may from time to time prorogue the house or either house, dissolve the legislative assembly as well. So what is happening at the central level, the same will have to be followed even at the state level, and at the state level it is the governor and not the speaker who will summon the legislators to attend the legislative assembly meetings. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to Moa, which of the following statements are correct? The Moa is associated with the myths of the Gond tribe, and the liquor brewed from its flowers is considered sacred and forms a part of the offerings made to gods and goddesses. They are found in tropical evergreen forests. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a mention of the Moa fruit. Let us try and understand what are these options. When it comes to the first option, the Moa is considered with the myths of the Gond tribe, and it is also considered sacred and is also offered to gods and goddesses. Yes, this statement is right. Moa, which is also known as the butternut tree, it is also called as the mo tree, which is also called as the Movra butter tree, is one of the important flowers, fruit, which is considered as sacred by the Gond tribe, and the liquor that is extracted from this is consumed by these people, and at the same time the flowers is also considered sacred and offered to gods and goddesses as well. So remember, the Moa flowers are rich with natural sugars, which is why they're deliberately used for liquor production, and at the same time they can also be used for various other food products as well, like the kheer or as the grain staple as well. What are the uses of the Moa tree? The flowers, the fruits, as well as the leaves of Moa are edible, which is why they're used as vegetables in some parts of the country. It is also considered as medicinal tree as well. It is used as external application when it comes to treating the skin disease. It is also used in curing headache, chronic constipation, so on and so forth. In fact, the Moa flower is not only used in the preparation of liquor but is also used in making the cakes, ladus, so on and so forth. When we look into the second statement, they are found not in the tropical evergreen forest but instead they are found in the moist deciduous forest. The moist deciduous forest are more pronounced in the regions which record rainfall between 100 to 200 centimeters. These forests are found in northeastern states along the foothills of Himalayas, eastern slopes of Western Ghats and Odisha, and Moa is present as part of the moist deciduous forest and not in tropical evergreen forest, which is why the second statement is wrong, and the answer to this would be one only. Now let's look into the next practice question. Global Hunger Index is published by World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Concern Worldwide, and Wealth Hunger Life. The answer to this is D, which happens to be Concern Worldwide and Wealth Hunger Life. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a mention of Global Hunger Index. Let us try and understand some important factual data with respect to the Global Hunger Index. The Global Hunger Index, as we have just discussed, is published by two NGOs called as the Concern Worldwide and Wealth Hunger Life. So basically, it is a joint publication prepared by the European NGOs called as Concern Worldwide and Wealth Hunger Life. They declare a ranking. The ranking is region specific. It is also country specific as well. This is calculated annually. This was first created back in the year 2006. What is the scaling of the global hunger index? The global hunger index determines hunger on a 100-point scale, where 0 is the best possible score, which means that country has no hunger, and 100 happens to be the worst, which means that country suffers from the worst periods of hunger, where people in that country suffer the most hunger people in the world. So basically, India was classified in the serious category on the global hunger index severity scale. So for the year 2021, India had a ranking of 101 among the 116 countries. What is the composition of the global hunger index? It has about 3 dimensions and 4 indicators. Which are the 3 dimensions? One, it includes child malnutrition, it includes inadequate food supply, and the third dimension happens to be child mortality. All the three are given an indexes value of 1/3. Then followed by this, what we have is called as the 4 indicators. What are these 4 indicators? Undernourishment, under 5 mortality rate, wasting, as well as stunting. All these parameters are taken into consideration by the global hunger index, and ultimately a ranking is released. So when it comes to undernourishment, it measures the inadequate food supply, which happens to be an important indicator of the hunger. It refers to the entire population, both children and adults, and this is also used as a lead indicator for international hunger targets, including the sustainable developmental goals. Next, it considers the under 5 mortality rate, and finally it also considers both the wasting and the stunting within a particular country and a region. A map would be drawn, an index would be drawn, countries and its associated issues would be given out, so that the policy makers in that particular country would be able to take these recommendations and implement at their country level. It is this that we have to understand in reference to the global hunger index. Now let's look into the next practice question. Organic light emitting diodes are used to create digital display in many devices. What are the advantages of OLED displays over liquid crystal displays? OLED displays can be fabricated on flexible plastic substrates. Roll-up displays embedded in clothing can be made using OLEDs. Transparent displays are possible using OLEDs. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The answer to this is 1, 2, and 3. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2017. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is rare earth elements. Rare earth elements are a group of 17 chemical elements. This includes scandium, it includes yttrium, and it also includes about 15 lanthanide elements. Which are these 15 lanthanide elements? It includes lanthanum, it includes cerium, presidium, then we have neodymium, promethium, samarium, europium, gadolinium, terbium, dysprosium, holmium, erbium, thulium, ytterbium, as well as lutetium. So basically there are about 17 elements. It includes scandium, yttrium, followed by 15 lanthanide elements as shown in this part of the image. So basically the rare earth elements are all metals. Since they are all metals, it is also called as rare earth metals as well. So these rare earth elements can also be called as rare earth metals because all these are metals. Now the question is, why are they called as the rare earth elements? Does this mean we do not have enough of these elements in the earth's crust? The answer is, they are called as rare earth elements not because we do not have enough of them. There is enough in the earth's crust, but because they are difficult in extraction, which is why they are called as rare earth metals. So basically rare earth minerals are not rare. They are commonly found in the earth's crust. These metals are called rare because of the difficulties involved in extracting the metals from the ore. The rare earth metals rarely occur in pure form. The cost involved in mining the rare earth metals is comparatively very high as well, which is why they are called as rare earth metals. Which country has the rarest earth metals? China has the rarest earth metals at 44 million metric tons, followed by Brazil and Vietnam, which has next highest reserves of rare earth minerals at 22 million metric tons, followed by Russia, followed by India, and then we have other countries like Australia, United States of America, so on and so forth. What is the importance of these rare earth elements? These rare earth elements are significantly important when it comes to the technology. It is used in consumer electronics, computers and networks, communication, clean energy, advanced transportation, where it is used in the batteries of the electric vehicles. It is used in healthcare as well, environmental mitigation, national defense, so on and so forth. When we speak about scandium, it is used in televisions and fluorescent labs. When it comes to yttrium, it is used in drugs to treat rheumatoid arthritis and cancer. These rare earth elements also play a significant role in the national defense as well, where they're used in night vision goggles and precision guided weapons. These rare earth elements are also used in space shuttle components like the jet engine turbines as well as drones. One such example we can speak of is cerium, which happens to be the most abundant rare earth element and is essential for some of the programs like NASA's space shuttle program. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.